1992, la summitul Pământului desfășurat la Rio de Janeiro, liderii a 172 de țări de pe glob au transmis pentru prima dată mesajul că interferența umană este periculoasă pentru sistemul climatic terestru. În decembrie 2015, semnarea acordului de la Paris anunța un plan ambițios de limitare a încălzirii globale. Însă progresele din ultimii ani nu au fost suficiente. Ultimii 8 ani au fost cei mai călduroși din istoria omenirii. S-au înregistrat concentrații record de gaze cu efect de seră, iar conținutul de căldură oceanică a atins cea mai mare valoare. Nivelul global al mării a crescut în ultimul deceniu cu 4,5 mm pe an, iar ghețarii se topesc într-un ritm accelerat. Cât timp ne-a mai rămas până să atingem mult temutul prag de 1,5 grade Celsius? Nu mai mult de câțiva ani. Ceasul climatic arată în timp real evoluția emisiilor de dioxid de carbon și a procesului de încălzire globală. Și a pornit numărătoarea inversă. În acest context global s-a desfășurat cea de-a 27-a ediție a Conferinței ONU privind schimbările climatice, COP27.
We are in the fight of our lives and we are losing. Greenhouse gas emissions keep growing. Global temperatures keep rising. And our planet is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator.
Specialiștii din domeniul climei și oamenii de știință au venit cu un mesaj clar. Timpul nu se scurge în favoarea noastră. Schimbările climatice sunt o realitate care nu mai poate fi negată și trebuie să acționăm acum.
Every fraction of a degree matters just leads you to the conclusion we need to up the action on mitigation and up the action on adaptation.
IPCC recently announced that the window of 1.5 is becoming narrower and narrower. And if you really want to keep 1.5 alive, the emissions cuts should be urgent and very deep and quick.
For a 1.5 degrees scenario, we'd say gas use has to be 45% lower by 2050.
A lot of data coming from the skies, there are billions of dollars of satellites flying around, but what we're missing today are surface-based, ground-based observations.
Centrul de conferințe din Sharm el-Sheikh a avut două locații principale. În zona albastră au avut loc discuții și negocieri oficiale. Zona verde a fost destinată oamenilor de afaceri, tinerilor, societății civile și comunităților indigene, mediului academic și artiștilor. Au fost alese mai multe zile tematice: Ziua apei, Ziua energiei, Ziua biodiversității, Ziua soluțiilor, Ziua decarbonizării, Ziua tineretului, Ziua științei, Ziua societății civile, Ziua egalității de gen, Ziua finanțelor, Ziua adaptării și Ziua agriculturii. Multe dintre cele 97 de pavilioane s-au întrecut în adevărate demonstrații de tehnologie.
I think you need to look at the science and create climate action. So here, for example, you've got all this different data from 1995 onwards that basically shows various different data sets from space. So if we look at greenhouse gas emissions, so this data you can't ignore. We must take action.
Artiștii au avut în ultimii ani un rol important în a atrage atenția asupra stării planetei. Corpuri unite de o moleculă de aer s-a intitulat sculptura care a fost instalată în centrul pavilionului pentru sănătate, pentru a avertiza asupra urgenței reducerii poluării și a emisiilor de gaze cu efect de seră. A fost realizată din aluminiu reciclat din piese de mașini și asamblată sub forma unor plămâni, dar și a ramurilor de copac. Riscurile pentru sănătate trebuie să facă parte din negocierile privind schimbările climatice, a fost mesajul Organizației Mondiale a Sănătății.
1.5 to survive! 1.5 to survive! 1.5 to survive!
Let's be green! Do you have children? I do! Are they affected by climate change?
We are changing them!
Where are you from?
We are from America. We are all over the world, our chapters.
And what's your message?
Our message is let's be vegan, let's go green to save the planet for your children's children's children.
Un raport publicat în revista Science, care a revizuit mai mult de 200 de studii științifice din ultimii 15 ani, atrage atenția asupra faptului că în momentul în care creșterea temperaturii medii globale va atinge pragul de 1,5 grade Celsius, vor fi depășite mai multe puncte critice pentru climă. Topirea calotelor glaciare din Groenlanda și Antarctica de Vest, moartea recifelor de coral de la tropice și dezghețarea permafrostului.
The tipping points, at which point of time certain phenomena would be unstoppable. For instance, now we can unfortunately say that glaciers would probably not survive, not all. So it's clearly indicated in the IPCC report because of the energy we concentrated right now already in the climate system.
În ultimii ani, nivelurile atmosferice ale principalelor gaze cu efect de seră au atins noi valori record. Mai grav însă a fost raportată cea mai mare creștere de la an a concentrațiilor de metan.
We have a network of 150 stations worldwide where we measure concentrations of main greenhouse gases. It's carbon dioxide, it's methane and nitrous oxide. And in all of those three gases we have again broken new records. So we haven't seen any improvement in real atmosphere so far.
This year we reported 415 CO2 parts per million, and methane jumped in a very high speed this year. So this background concentration helps to see what is already in the atmosphere, which contributes to heating. On the same time, what countries emit, they report through the national emission inventories, and this doesn't match with what is needed.
Methane is a powerful greenhouse gas. It wasn't necessarily on top of the list of priority or of concerns until very recently, when there was an increase in the rate of increase of methane over time. And we wouldn't have even noticed that had not been for the Earth observation available. And that increase has actually triggered action globally to tackle methane, the fastest growing greenhouse gas at this stage.
We will be using satellites. Some are already flying, some are to come, planned. Satellites do not make direct measurements, but satellites measure parameters which allow us to estimate. Then we have ground stations, which are not sufficient everywhere. There is plenty in Europe, but there is not plenty in other parts. And then we use atmospheric transfer models. With this, the world will have absolutely accurate, transparent, global information in a higher detail. What are the fluxes? It will also take into account the sinks, because when countries provide information about their emissions, they also try to take into account the absorption of greenhouse gases by their natural sinks. The most important question for us all is what remains in the atmosphere after all this carbon cycle, because what remains stays there for a long time. CO2 doesn't disappear for thousands of years, rather.
Specialiștii sunt de părere că este nevoie de mai multă transparență în raportarea acestor emisii, dar și de o mai bună monitorizare. La COP27 a fost lansat un sistem de alertă și răspuns la metan, care va utiliza datele satelitare și inteligența artificială pentru a identifica sursele de emisii.
There is often a tendency to say that this technology, and this is true, of course, they use a lot of energy, but on the other side, they can also be used to exactly fight the climate change. There are many uses of AI for exactly fighting climate change, let's say. One of these is a very nice example from Danish companies showing how this can help the decarbonization, exactly, for instance, through controlling smart meters in our buildings, avoiding to waste energies unnecessarily. Or on the other side, then, for instance, we are doing a study with one of our, some of my colleagues, for instance, my co-lead Gry Hasselbalch, that is also working with me on this project, together with Henrik Søtra, a professor from Norway. We are conducting a study exactly to map what are the uses at the moment in Europe and worldwide of these technologies for different purposes of sustainability. For instance, we can control also emissions in different areas, in industries or also clearly in the transport. So making sure that we can limit emissions and achieve the ambitious goal, for instance, that in Europe in particular we set up to be climate neutral by 2050.
We are aware of abundance of different technologies try to help in all streams of climate agenda everywhere. We just have 150 years experience of global measurements, international exchange, free international exchange, open transparent systems. So anyone else who comes on board to offer help in the system is fine.
We talk about the artificial intelligence systems because these are sets of technologies. It's not one specific, let's say, tool. But actually how we can, for instance, use sensors or predictive systems, make analysis of data, of big data that can then be put at disposal of the decision-making systems, both automatic and also, of course, human managed, and so to avoid and anticipate possible risks, also natural disasters that could be prevented exactly by specific use of certain technology.
Le réchauffement climatique est quand même à l'œuvre, on peut le voir, les glaciers diminuent, leur vitesse s'accélère, donc ça c'est clair. Et puis aussi je pense que les glaciers sont vraiment fréquentés depuis quelques dizaines d'années. Et à mon avis, à partir de maintenant, on va avoir beaucoup plus de restitution que ce qu'on a pu voir par le passé.
La COP27 a fost deschis primul pavilion mediteranean din istoria desfășurării conferinței. În toată regiunea mediteraneană se resimt puternic efectele schimbărilor climatice. Valuri de caniculă mai intense și mai îndelungate, secetă severă în multe țări, furtuni puternice și inundații, iar Marea Mediterană este din ce în ce mai caldă.
The Mediterranean is a very fragile region, very exposed. Other communities or regions which are more stricken by climate change manage to have their voices heard, especially the islands. They are like us. They belong to different groups, but they united to cry out for their condition. And we have to do the same, because the Mediterranean is really a hotspot for two reasons. The first reason is that impacts are very severe. We are the second fastest warming region in the world. And the second reason is that the Mediterranean is socially very fragile. It is very asymmetric. It's a place where there are rich people and poor people, and this makes it very vulnerable. It is also a global interest. Because if you see the map, on the Mediterranean converge the interests of three continents: Asia, Europe, Africa. So if the Mediterranean destabilizes, it's a global problem. This little sea is the place where more than 25% of international commerce passes through, and a very high percentage of energy transports pass here. And it is also the point of encounter of various opposed interests. What happens next depends on us. If we do the right thing, and this is the reason why we have the pavilion, we think we know what is the right thing to do, but if nothing happens, we will have a very serious situation. We forecast, not us as people, but the scientists who work with us, for instance, 250 million people in water scarcity in less than 15 years. We foresee a very quick sea level rise that can salinize the agriculture on the coastal plains, and 40% of the regional agriculture is on the coast. It is a big problem for food security and many more problems.
Harta Serviciului Copernicus de monitorizare marină a arătat în luna noiembrie temperaturi cu 5 grade peste cele normale. În cursul verii, temperatura apei Mării Mediterane a ajuns și la peste 30 de grade, ceea ce, potrivit specialiștilor, crește riscul de furtuni violente toamna, deoarece o apă mai caldă înseamnă o umiditate a aerului mai mare. Experții ONU sunt de părere că nivelul Mării Mediterane va crește mai repede decât aproape oriunde altundeva în lume.
If we do the right thing, it's the other way around. Not only we protect ourselves from climate, but also we build peace. Because we think we found the solution. And the solution is that we have to forget differences as a reason to be one against the other and understand that differences are a richness. Romania is located in an absolutely strategic part for solving the problems of the region, and it has a lot of potential to develop. We think that it is important that Romania understands a message which is our message, which is not only together we can, but also sustainable is not a sacrifice. Sustainable is convenient. It makes your economy more competitive. And since Romania is entering a new phase of economy, choosing now the sustainable way is a gift to the Romanians, but also to all the other people around there. We are all affected, actually. The difference is not in how much we are affected, but it is in how much we are able to resist. Of course, if there is a drought, a rich country can substitute the failed harvest by buying cereals on the market. A poor country can't. So the fragility is not depending on the fact that climate is harsher in one place than the other. We are all very much affected. The difference is between your possibility to find other solutions or not.
Serviciul Copernicus de monitorizare a atmosferei a urmărit incendiile de vegetație de pe glob pe parcursul anului 2022. Au fost creșteri în unele regiuni, în timp ce la nivel global au scăzut. Pentru Uniunea Europeană, perioada 1 iunie-31 august a avut cele mai mari emisii începând din 2007. Acestea reprezintă o sursă semnificativă de poluanți atmosferici, care pot degrada calitatea aerului și pot prezenta un risc pentru sănătatea umană.
In Europe, over the last 12 months, we've seen very significant fires, particularly through the summer, across various regions of Europe, but most notably in the southwest of France, near to Bordeaux, and also in Spain and Portugal. And in France and Spain, in terms of the emissions between June, July, and August, the total estimated emissions for those months were the highest this year than they've been in the last 20 years, which is the period our data set covers. In addition to this, there were also significant fires in Slovenia, Germany, Czechia, Hungary, and other parts of Europe too. So generally in the summer you expect some degree of fires in vegetation and also in forests. And what we've been seeing in recent years is a lot of those fires occurring in places which are much hotter and drier. And so this means that this quantity of the flammability of the vegetation, which means how likely it is to burn when there's an ignition, is increased. And so when there is an ignition, we're seeing the fires such as those that we observed over the last summer, but also in other recent summers. Well, in terms of greenhouse gas concentrations, the contribution from wildfires in Europe is usually very, very small. So it doesn't necessarily contribute a lot to the growth rate in atmospheric carbon dioxide. But those fires, the contribution and impacts that they have in the atmosphere is very direct through air pollutants and degrading air quality, particularly in population centres downwind from those fires. I don't expect that they would have a significant impact on climate. I think we don't do those calculations in terms of the atmospheric CO2 growth rate, but there will be some change to the carbon cycle, so there will be an indirect impact on climate change. But in terms of the contribution to how much CO2 stays in the atmosphere over the course of a year, it's probably a very small contribution.
O altă premieră a fost primul pavilion pentru copii și tineret, unul dintre cele mai aglomerate și mai dinamice de la COP27. 55 de adolescenți și tineri au putut fi prezenți în sălile de negociere, un mare pas înainte, mai ales pentru cei din țările defavorizate de pe glob. Spre exemplu din Africa, acesta fiind continentul cu cea mai tânără populație din lume, aproximativ 70% dintre persoanele sub 30 de ani.
I am happy to be in the COP and since climate change is a cross-section issue, it affects everyone and it's everybody's business. So I am happy to be here and I feel the message this year is together for implementation. We need to act now from local level to international level. All of us need to do it together. Climate justice, climate action, so we can push the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Climate change is not only a matter of environmental concern, it is now it's undermining our basic human rights.
More of young people from Indonesia can voice out their own voices.
We need action and right now.
Todos os dias, né, lutando e mantendo a floresta em pé. Nós, povos indígenas, somos 5% da população do mundo e preservamos 80% de toda a biodiversidade.
Corap, sou do povo Munduruku, sou da região do Médio Tapajós, município de Itaituba, Pará, e o meu povo somos 14 mil, aproximadamente, né? 14 mil Munduruku.
Eu me sinto mais viva quando eu estou perto do rio, quando eu estou embaixo de uma samba, numas árvores, com os cânticos. É vida. Só basta você parar agora, você sentir o que está acontecendo com a sua vida. Porque nós já vem avisando há muito tempo. Nós já estamos avisando que o aquecimento global vai acontecer e já está acontecendo. E dizer, para de desmatar, para de comprar soja, para de comprar carne, para de ajudar a desmatar. É isso que a gente pede.
Pădurea amazoniană, plămânul verde al planetei, s-a transformat în ultimii ani într-o adevărată sursă de carbon. În luna august 2022 au fost detectate peste 33.000 de incendii ilegale, cel mai mare număr din ultimii 12 ani. Noul președinte ales, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, a fost așteptat ore întregi. Brazilia s-a întors, Amazonul va fi protejat, a declarat acesta. S-a oferit să găzduiască discuțiile ONU privind clima în 2025 și a spus că țara lui va acorda prioritate conservării cele mai mari păduri tropicale din lume. Ceea ce se întâmplă undeva pe glob nu rămâne acolo. 90% din încălzirea globală are loc în oceane, iar căldura stocată face ca apa să își mărească volumul, fenomenul fiind responsabil pentru o treime până la jumătate din creșterea nivelului global al mării. Ultimii 10 ani reprezintă cel mai cald deceniu al oceanului terestru.
Malheureusement, l'océan est vraiment en mauvais état. Il faut dire qu'en fait, au cours de l'histoire de notre planète, il y a eu beaucoup de changements qui ont affecté l'océan de manière naturelle. Aujourd'hui, les changements qui se produisent sont sans équivalent, que ce soit par leur vitesse d'apparition, leur amplitude, leur étendue. Et les résultats scientifiques qu'on a démontrent vraiment que la majeure partie des changements qui affectent l'océan ont des causes qui sont liées à l'activité humaine. Avec le changement climatique, on a des conditions environnementales complètement inédites depuis des millions d'années qui sont observées dans l'océan. L'océan est affecté notamment par les émissions de gaz à effet de serre, de CO2, la surexploitation des ressources, par exemple la surpêche, et les différents types de pollution qui existent, par exemple la pollution plastique. Et ces différentes formes d'activité humaine, ça altère la capacité de l'océan qui peut avoir à limiter les effets du changement climatique et ça dégrade aussi tous ces écosystèmes. Alors qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Il y a de nombreuses menaces qui sont liées au changement climatique qui pèsent sur l'océan, par exemple son réchauffement, la désoxygénation, l'acidification. Et en fait, si l'océan continue à réussir à limiter le réchauffement climatique global, puisque l'océan est un grand régulateur du climat, petit à petit, il approche aussi de la limite de CO2 qu'il peut absorber et stocker. Et quand je parle de dégradation des écosystèmes marins et côtiers, en fait, on a une perte sans précédent de la biodiversité. C'est pour ça qu'on parle en ce moment de la 6e extinction de masse.
Criza climatică provoacă și o criză a biodiversității. Toate ecosistemele sunt în pericol. Un sfert dintre toate speciile de plante sau animale sunt amenințate cu dispariția din cauza schimbărilor climatice și a poluării.
En fait, notre planète, la Terre, c'est une planète bleue. Et pour cause, puisque l'océan est le plus grand écosystème de la planète, représente 71% de la surface du globe. Donc c'est énorme. Comme je le disais, il est non seulement puits de carbone, c'est-à-dire qu'il capte des émissions de gaz à effet de serre humaines, il est aussi réservoir de chaleur. Il absorbe la chaleur émise, 93% exactement de la chaleur émise depuis la révolution industrielle. Et donc, il joue un rôle clé dans la régulation du climat. Donc, il peut être là pour nous soutenir. Et en plus, on estime que l'océan abrite entre 500 000 et 10 millions d'espèces. C'est énorme. C'est une vraie source de solutions, notamment parce que si l'océan a une place centrale dans nos sociétés humaines, puisque les écosystèmes marins, que ce soit par exemple les récifs coralliens, les mangroves, les prairies sous-marines, tous ces écosystèmes-là servent directement et indirectement aux sociétés humaines. Donc pour ça, on a besoin de mesures qui soient ambitieuses, qui soient basées sur la science, surtout puisqu'aujourd'hui on a les connaissances scientifiques qui nous permettent de construire ces solutions, et qui soient soutenues aussi par une action forte de la part de tous les acteurs de la société civile.
Why did you come here?
I come to save the ocean. I come to save the ocean, the sharks, the ocean, the sharks, the people and the sharks.
La situation n'est pas désespérée, bien au contraire. Il y a de quoi faire pour limiter le changement climatique, réduire la pollution, protéger en fait ces habitats, ces espèces, restaurer aussi ces habitats et ces espèces et adopter une utilisation qui soit plus durable sur le long terme des ressources. Il y a aussi tout ce qui est décarbonation, transport maritime, réduire les collisions qu'on va avoir avec les mammifères marins, réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de serre de ces bateaux, avoir de meilleures connexions avec les ports par exemple, pour pouvoir verdir aussi les ports, qui soient plus électrifiés par exemple. Enfin, voilà. On a un ensemble de solutions qui existent, qui est très diversifié. C'est ça un petit peu le message que je voudrais faire passer. Il existe plein de solutions et qu'en fait, une solution peut permettre d'atteindre plusieurs objectifs. C'est important d'avoir tout le monde de mobiliser pour mieux consommer, pour consommer par exemple moins de plastique, utiliser moins sa voiture. Et qu'en fait, c'est l'ensemble de la société qui doit changer ensemble.
There are some stars, two stars, which used to appear on the evening side, on the western side. But up to now, they disappear. That is one of the signs which shows that there is a problem. There is also another sign. There are some ants. They used to move from places to places, but now they went inside. Everything is died.
We have had almost 6 consecutive rainy seasons in our country that have failed, especially in arid and semi-arid areas in our country. And now we need to look at more ways to make the weather more predictable. The droughts are becoming more intense in terms of the duration that they last. And the flooding are becoming more intense in terms of the amount of water. Previously, we didn't have people being killed or losing life because of floods.
Now the drought is continuing. We have only seen showers. Madam, showers. We are not expecting to get rain by now, unless we see the star.
În 2022, evenimentele meteo extreme au provocat pagube de 29 de miliarde de dolari la nivel global. În Africa, 19 milioane de oameni au fost afectați. Însă, potrivit Organizației Națiunilor Unite, jumătate dintre țările de pe glob nu sunt protejate de sisteme de avertizare timpurie. Organizația Meteorologică Mondială a anunțat elaborarea unui plan de acțiune pentru creșterea acoperirii globale a acestora. O notificare cu doar 24 de ore înaintea unui eveniment meteo periculos iminent poate reduce daunele cu 30% și poate salva numeroase vieți.
WMO business is to save lives. One of our main role is to protect people from the disasters. Last 50 years, natural disasters increased by 5 times, and the number of people we lose continues to be significant. The most critical for WMO was that disasters are becoming complex. They are sometimes cascading. Of course, floods and droughts are most important killers, I would say, but there are also storms and tropical storms. And all this is coming in a very intense way. With the changing climate, disasters are becoming more frequent and more intense. On the other hand, in our member countries, in global countries, 193 members, 50% reported that they do not have proper early warning systems, not reaching the people. So last year, we tried to make this case at the COP, and Secretary General Guterres announced a challenge. No one remains without warnings in 5 years. This was announced, the action plan was announced and launched during the high-level segment of the COP27, and we are seeing overwhelming support of countries.
This has been made one of the priority of the World Meteorological Organization. So the idea is that every nation, every region in the world should benefit from early warning systems in the near future. The good news is that for some of the hazard, for some of the climate drivers, we do have already now the building block, the technical element that are required for those early warning systems to work. So that's a good news. But early warning system is more than just the ability to predict ahead of some sort of extreme event. Is also the ability to alert people.
We really want that the warning information reaches the people, and that being informed of the landfall of the tropical cyclone, they are aware of what the impacts may be in terms of the damaging wind force, but also the storm surge that will create coastal inundation, potential rainfall with landslides associated and stuff.
The plan covers the whole value chain. It has 4 components. First, understanding the risk of natural disasters and disaster risk reduction. Second component is more WMO mandate, is observing, forecasting, and scientific assessment. So the part which is technical part, WMO will take care of this, and we coordinate it with our other partners, this part. Third part is communication and dissemination. In many ways, this is one of the most critical parts in the whole value chain. And the last part is getting to the people and acting, early action and anticipatory action. This part, the cooperation of agencies within and outside UN, with private sector, with academics. The time to prepare the plan for us was very short because Secretary General announced this in March, and now in November we already have a plan. Today, everyone who is contributing know what needs to be done.
This COP decided to endorse an investment of $3.1 billion for the coming 5 years to improve the basic observing infrastructure of meteorology and hydrology, and also early warning service skills in half of the member countries of WMO.
Țările care contribuie cel mai puțin la criza climatică plătesc cel mai mare preț. Multe dintre statele insulare sunt în pericol de dispariție, iar altele se confruntă cu efectele grave ale schimbărilor climatice, cum ar fi Somalia, unde peste 7 milioane de oameni suferă de foame din cauza secetei. Sau Pakistan, unde inundațiile au provocat în 2022 daune în valoare de aproximativ 30 de miliarde de dolari.
As we speak, we are literally sinking. That we are at the front line, and climate change is an existential threat. It is a matter of our survival.
For a long time we've heard that, developed countries have obligations, that they must do this, but they have not done much. So we want to see that being done.
COP27 va intra în istorie pentru semnarea acordului care prevede instituirea unui fond pentru pierderi și daune. A fost lansat și un parteneriat al liderilor pentru păduri și climă, care își propune să oprească pierderea pădurilor și degradarea terenurilor până în 2030. Din păcate, apelurile de a elimina treptat combustibilii fosili au fost blocate de statele producătoare de petrol. Iar COP27 s-a încheiat fără un progres din acest punct de vedere, atât de necesar în actuala criză climatică.
There's talk from my home country, the United Kingdom, today that almost all of the leading companies are not moving fast enough. They've made promises to reduce their emissions, but they're not doing enough. But also we see that sometimes it's the finance, it's investment decisions are being made which are leading development, leading green technology, leading the transition to green economy. So sometimes there's a criticism of for example, the number of big companies that are here at COP. They're very well represented, even the fossil fuel companies. But actually they're part of the problem, but they're also part of the solution.
Am ridicat steagul roșu pentru criosferă, a spus Elena Manaenkova, secretarul general adjunct al Organizației Meteorologice Mondiale. Pierderea calotei de gheață în Groenlanda și în anumite părți ale Antarcticii crește și este în mare parte ireversibilă.
Will already continues to affect the glaciers, and because of that, the sea level will continue to rise, whatever scenario we will finally end up with.
Nivelurile ridicate ale mării pot modifica harta lumii, pun în pericol ecosisteme marine și de coastă și pot provoca pierderi economice imense. Retragerea ghețarilor din zonele montane înalte crește riscul deficitului de apă pe termen lung în regiuni dens populate ale lumii. La COP27, o coaliție de 18 guverne condusă de Chile și Islanda au creat un grup la nivel înalt care își propune să se asigure că impactul pierderii criosferei este înțeles de către liderii politici și de către public, nu doar în regiunile montane și polare, ci pe întreaga planetă. Rata creșterii nivelului mării s-a dublat în 1993 și a ajuns la 10% din creșterea globală, de la începutul măsurătorilor din satelit cu 30 de ani în urmă. O mare parte din această accelerare se datorează topirii calotelor de gheață, mai degrabă decât expansiunii termice a apei, conform raportului provizoriu al Organizației Meteorologice Mondiale privind starea climatului global în 2022. Întinderea gheții arctice a fost sub media pe termen lung pentru cea mai mare parte a anului. Ghețarii din Alpii europeni au suferit o topire record, iar calota de gheață din Groenlanda a pierdut din masă pentru al 27-lea an consecutiv.
There is some patches of Posidonia oceanica, which is the scientific name for a species known as the Neptune grass. They are known as the lungs of the Mediterranean. They produce a lot of oxygen. They are a habitat for a lot of species. And not only this, but they also prevent erosion. There's nothing in the world that actually decomposes plastic. What happens is that it becomes small, tiny particles, which is microplastics. Fishing nets, since they are made out of plastics, they stay there forever.
Educația climatică are o importanță din ce în ce mai mare, însă aceasta trebuie să se adreseze nu numai copiilor sau tinerilor, ci și adulților, fapt subliniat și de numeroase organizații non-guvernamentale.
Acțiunile pe care trebuie să le luăm cu privire la schimbarea de climă trebuie să fie luate ca un colectiv, nu individual. Credem cu tărie că trebuie să aducem educația despre climă într-un mod accesibil, chiar distractiv, dacă se poate spune așa în contextul acesta, și să nu mai facem această știință accesibilă doar oamenilor de știință, doar experților, doar oamenilor care au lucrat 10, 20, 30 de ani în domeniu. Aceste informații sunt accesibile tuturor. Problema este că trebuie să facem transferul de cunoștințe într-un mod plăcut, într-un mod accesibil. Cei care iau decizii sau sunt în putere, de cele mai multe ori sunt oameni în mijlocul carierei care nu au niciun interes să se ducă înapoi la școală și să învețe într-o formă mai tradițională. Asta facem noi foarte bine. Aducem oameni străini uneori în jurul unei mese care se comportă ca o echipă și care înțeleg că atât la workshop cât și după trebuie să fie mereu o echipă când ne gândim la acțiuni, soluții și așa mai departe.
sharks, the ocean, the shark, the people, and the sharks. What about you?
Romania. Kids first. It's right in here.
Kids first. Save the kids, the future, the present, the past.
People are dying every day.
Avem nevoie de știință să ne explice fenomenele. Avem nevoie de jurnaliști care să ceară și să transmită informațiile. Avem nevoie și ca societatea civilă să se implice și să împingă lucrurile înainte. Și avem nevoie de politicieni care să ia deciziile necesare.
It's very important that you have that good connection between journalists and sciences. Science is some kind of sterile. They own laws and they want things to be complicated normally, and journalists are there to present that things simple to the ordinary people. They do it sometimes too simple, and it's not a good way. You have to know what exactly the problems are, so you have to respect science, and that what you learn from science to present to the people on the easy way. But you have to be very clear. We are in huge problem right now. What we talk and the warnings we can send to the public are very, very important. The media from the United States, from Great Britain and from Netherlands and from Germany, they already have ecology news on the top of their stories. So we need politicians who understand this issue and who understand that the only interest for all of us is healthy life, healthy water and healthy air.
What do you say to those who still don't believe in science?
The best we can do as scientists is to put the evidence forward and make it easy for people to look at the evidence. But at the end of the day, a fact is a fact, whether you like it or not. And so you are absolutely free to disagree, but disagree with facts is like, I disagree with the law of gravity. Well, you can disagree, but it doesn't matter. The apple still falls, right? And I think it's the same for climate. You can disagree or don't trust the facts, but facts remain facts.
Both WMO and IPCC, we use same baselines, we use same parameters. We make sure that our reports is a one continuum flow of information. IPCC does assessments every 6 and 7 years. WMO reports and monitors every year. We are trying to listen why the questions are. So if the questions come from those who really want to understand, so then we are sitting down with those people or organizations, talk to them. At the same time, there is hardly any decision here or elsewhere which doesn't start now based on the trustful science, And we believe that we are one of those who are source of this trustful science.
On a la science, on sait qu'il y a des solutions, on sait comment les mettre en place. Donc maintenant, il faut se mobiliser pour transformer ensemble l'ensemble de la société.
I like to think there is still hope. You know, we don't have zero chance, right? We have chances. It's in our hand. It's a monumental challenge, the one you have in front of us, but not an impossible one, right? So there are elements of the climate system that are approaching or may have passed tipping point, so showing some level of irreversibility at this stage. But I don't think at this stage we can say that the game is lost.
Let's be clear. Our planet is still in the emergency room. We need to drastically reduce emissions now, and this is an issue this COP did not address. A fund for loss and damage is essential, but it's not an answer if the climate crisis washes a small island state off the map or turns an entire African country to desert. The red line we must not cross is the line that takes our planet over the 1.5 degree temperature limit.
1.5 to stay alive.
No climate justice without gender justice. Solidarité avec les femmes du monde entier. So. The people united will never be defeated. No se vende, no quiero ser vende.